Hey guys, welcome to the Way Podcast, where we talk about anything and everything news. Today is a special day because as of November 3rd, it is election day. And here we are to talk about what we feel looking at these battleground states, the map, and discuss between each other what will happen in the next few hours.
So, if you look at, there's multiple different, polls stating on who's winning where. Obviously, everything started getting counted today. All your ballots started getting counted today. So, obviously, none of this is official. For all we know, California could turn red. Probably unlikely, but, everything hasn't been counted yet. But right now, multiple different sources are projecting Biden to win based on how they think the toss-ups will lean. But from what I see, Texas is definitely going Trump. Florida, I don't see going to Biden. Georgia, I don't see going to Biden. And what was the other one? PA. They're trying to say that it's leaning towards Biden, but I don't see it, especially since how Biden's been on fracking, the oil industry. There's a lot of jobs there that I just don't see the majority of the people, wanting to side with Biden. On top of that, Trump was just there and had 57,000 people in the crowd.
It's reported 57,000, but I don't know if there's any way to prove that.
You look at the pictures, it's a massive crowd. So, obviously everything right now is just predictions. We have some maps predicting Trump to win, some predicting Biden to win. But overall, I don't see it going to Biden right now because Arizona, Texas, Florida, and Georgia, I just see them going red. I don't see it. I know they're trying to say, oh, Texas might go blue, but I don't see it happening, especially how Texas is a major gun state, and Biden's policies against guns on his website of assault weapons bans and all these different regulations he wants to impose. I don't see Texas going blue. So I do see Texas 100% in the bag for Trump. As far as Florida, I would say, again, that would be going to Trump because, they've been really vocal about, being out during the pandemic and wanting to live their lives the way they want to live them. And Biden said in the debate, that he might shut down the economy again, make everyone go back inside again. And, I think as how Florida's been so vocal with their parades and how they feel about, the coronavirus, I just don't see them wanting to lean towards someone who we've already seen they don't really want to be inside their homes and wear masks and whatnot.
Most people don't have a problem with masks, but no one, look at Halloween. No one really wants to be inside anymore.
Everybody, especially here in California, people were out partying. There was tons of parties.
Yeah, man, people were acting like they couldn't get sick just because they were wearing a mask at a party. And I'm like, motherfucker, you swapping spit with people sharing drinks, that's the least of your problems.
Exactly.
As you said, these are polls. Some polls majority of these polls are kind of Biden leaning, and there's probably 2 or 3 they're saying Trump is winning. So in the end, I believe these polls I don't really trust because you're basically asking people questions on who will win. Maybe these people are majority, Democrat or Republican, so you get a biased stance on these polls. So it doesn't really matter in my opinion. And also it depends on the location of the poll. Where they know a majority, as I said, is Republican or Democrat, you'll get a skewed stance on who will win the election. So, these polls I don't really trust. Today is going to be super surprising for everyone, no matter what, no matter where it goes. It's just people got to be ready.
I don't think that, to me, I'm not surprised because, like I said, the states that they're trying to say are a toss-up. On the people that you can, on the polls that you can kind of see they're leaning Biden more, you can, I just went over my reasoning that some of these states they don't align with Biden's policies. right? So then why would they vote for Biden if it goes against their own interests? Like PA, they're saying it's highly likely that it's going to lean blue, but we keep seeing it's shrinking every single day. They keep talking about how it's the lead on Biden in PA is shrinking, and it's because, like I said, fracking and oil, Biden's really against those things, and he's really wishy-washy. Oh, I'm banning fracking. Oh, I'm not banning fracking. I'm banning fracking.
Is fracking like a big thing in PA?
Yeah, it is.
Is that?
There's a lot of jobs in PA for fracking.
What other policies do they have that make it seem as if Biden's kind of for them? Or is it just fracking that they're just concerned for?
Well, I mean, it's the oil industry, fracking in the oil industry in PA, that's a lot of jobs. And what we're seeing right now is all these politicians, we talked about this before in another podcast, is they're putting all this legislation in place saying like we need to go towards renewable energy. And it's not like, oh, your jobs are going to transfer over here. They haven't really said like, okay, we're going to make this and you're going to transfer here and you're going to have your job still. So, I mean, a lot of people who work in the oil industry are like, okay, like if I vote for this person and he puts in all this legislation, will I lose my job? You know what I mean?
And they might have to learn a new skill, in terms of if it happens, they might have to learn a new skill to kind of transition from the oil industry to renewable energy. So I think majority of people are lazy to transition because they're just so used to their lifestyle as in terms of their job. So that might be a reason why, as you said, PA's kind of, the numbers are changing.
Yeah, and then also like, renewable energy could not require as many jobs. I mean, if you think about it, like there's a difference between like, you need a bunch of people working on an oil rig or, at a fracking location. Whereas in renewable energy, I mean, how would those jobs even transfer? You know what I mean? Like windmills, solar panels, I mean, natural gas, how would those jobs transfer over is what I'm trying to say. So I just think, a lot of these states that are like big on oil, they're not gonna vote for Biden because they can see that like there's not really a certain future they have with the Biden administration. Like I said, with Texas, Arizona, I really don't see again them voting for Biden because I mean I believe it's an open carry state. They're not really against guns there, so I really don't see Arizona leaning that way. But I mean, again, a lot of these polls I feel like are biased. I mean, I've never been polled in my entire life. I don't know anyone in my life that's ever been polled. I mean, I don't know about you. Can you guys can attest?
No, I've never seen anyone.
So I mean, I honestly like the reason why these are just predictions is because like we can't really trust this. We kind of have a good idea, like some states like California, we're kind of like, yeah, it's a very liberal state, so they're probably going to vote for Biden. I mean, but again, we really don't know. But I'm placing my bets on Trump in a lot of these toss-up states because of like what I just stated before. I'm not saying I'm a Trump supporter or anything. I'm just saying it just doesn't seem like these people would vote against their own interests.
Right, yeah, based off of like what we know and the perception that we have of these states, like, and also the perception of the general public and people that we know from areas like California and some of those areas, like it doesn't make sense why they would vote for Joe Biden.
Exactly.
Okay.
I mean, also like Minnesota, Wisconsin, wasn't Minnesota like where all the riots were and yeah, Kenosha, Wisconsin. Was that Wisconsin? It was Wisconsin. Right? Am I right? It's Wisconsin or Michigan.
It's not Michigan.
All right, then it's Wisconsin. It has to be.
You said Minnesota, not Michigan.
I know. I changed.
Yeah.
I'm trying to make sure.
Kenosha's in Wisconsin.
Yeah. So again, I feel with these Black Lives Matter protests, as we have talked about before, I feel like those are really hurting the Biden campaign. Same thing in Pennsylvania. Like the
riots that happened right before his.
The riots that just happened in Pennsylvania over a guy that came at police with a knife. I mean, they're saying it's a justified shooting too. So I think it's a justified shooting. You don't run at the police with a knife.
I mean, if his family doesn't want the officers to face murder charges, I don't.
Yeah, and states like that, like Wisconsin, PA, even some people in California could be voting for Trump because nobody wants to see this.
I know
like
so many people in California who hate Biden and Kamala's track record. Specifically, you know, Joe Biden speaking at a KKK members rally decades ago. Same thing with
A funeral?
Yeah.
I mean, his KKK member's funeral. Yeah.
Did I say rally?
Yeah.
Oh,
That would have been sus.
yeah. He spoke at a KKK member's funeral, whose job was to recruit people. I think. Also, his 1988 crack bill that he signed off on.
And
Same thing with the
lot of other things that put black people back.
1994 crime bill. People are still very upset
And-
about that.
Yeah, he still hasn't really apologized for a lot of those things, and I just think that the Biden campaign hasn't really done as good of a job as portraying him in the way that people want to see their president. I mean, just straight off the bat, raising taxes is not one of those things that people already want, and especially if you live in California or New York. I mean, 50 Cent said it himself. Lil Pump said it. All these rappers, they agree because when you raise the corporate tax in other states, we've talked about this before, other states, they can handle it. But in California, where we already have one of the highest corporate taxes in the country, and then you're going to raise the federal corporate tax again. I mean, we've already seen that 190,000 people left California in 2019. I'm sure it's over 200,000 this year because of the coronavirus pandemic.
People couldn't afford it, and then also Newsom was raising taxes, and he was like, "You have to pay these now." And it's like, what the
Yeah, and then they're trying to raise property taxes now. They're trying to raise income tax here in California. So I feel like a lot of business owners in California, because of Biden's tax plan,
Their number one concern is economy and taxes.
exactly.
They are going to put social issues and all that stuff, gun laws, last. They're going to put that beneath the economy, not necessarily last.
I don't remember where I found this, but I think it's under the tax, and I forgot some act, but it did outline Biden's tax plan, and it said that this act is gonna expire 2025, and then 2026 it's gonna be something different.
What do you mean? As in his tax plans?
This whole Tax Cut and Jobs Act, I think that's what it's called. If you can search it up.
I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, there's this whole number that they were showing, and I think I posted it on the other document.
Well, I think you might be talking about the minimum wage because I know that there
No, not
was.
minimum wage. It talks about the income tax. It talks about. I'm not too sure.
It's probably the tax foundation that had
Tax
it.
Foundation, yeah.
Yeah, the tax
It's on the
foundation.
previous one, and it shows how each number, of course, it increases until 2025, but the numbers between kind of shrinks, and then it just goes to zero from 26 to 2030.
Yeah, but people don't want that for now.
Yeah, for
People
now.
are looking
A lot
at
of
what's
people are
going to
looking at the
happen for
long
the
term
next
here.
year or two.
I mean, like I said, a lot of these people that want higher taxes, like I said, in states like Texas where there's no freaking income tax, Nevada where there's no corporate or income tax, they're not going to see a big change in your economy. Like, oh my God, I can't do this anymore. But California, where if Biden gets elected, the overall corporate tax combining, state and federal would be like 36 point something percent. So that again is a reason why companies, Toyota's leaving California now. Tesla's leaving California. Jamba Juice left California. Like, there's a ton of people that could not vote for Biden because of his tax laws.
Yeah. So if you look at 2 and 3, it shows about the income and then the please limitation, and then it shows how from now, or when it was enacted 2017, 2016 up to now, and then up to 2025, it's going to increase, and then from 2026 to 2030, it goes zero. I don't understand those numbers, and I'm not too sure how it's going to affect the whole economy, but yeah, that's what it says.
I mean, I just know that Biden will shrink the economy. We've gone over this before. The tax foundation has
It's a clear, concise thing that both the left and the right are saying. Like Washington,
Yeah,
obviously people with conservative bias are going to say it. And if you don't believe less people are saying it, Washington Post has already made an article about it.
I mean, but yeah, there's plenty reputable tax foundations, like the tax foundation itself, who's gone over this, and they said they're going to shrink it by at 1 point something percent, I think it's 1.6, and 542,000 full-time jobs will be lost.
Did
So
it
I mean,
specify part-time jobs? Did it specify part-time jobs?
No, it just said full time. So they could go from full time to part
And
time. Or they could
also,
leave the
you
food
got to
jobs.
remember, if he's gonna be doing lockdowns too with that high-ass tax rate, that shit's gonna go down way more than 1 point.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this before. My friend just lost her job at Disneyland in California, but it's like that's not even a Trump issue. That's a state issue because in Florida, Disney World has been open at 50% capacity. So it's more of like Gavin Newsom being like, I'm not going to allow you to open. That's causing people to
That's
lose
why
their
Bob.
jobs.
That's probably one of the factors into why Bob Iger left his like task force of like, let's open this state back up safely.
Yeah.
Because I think he was begging them to open back up movie theaters and theme parks at limited capacity because like you can't just screw the economy and people's jobs over like that. Like people depend on that type of stuff. And Newsom, I guess I don't know what it is with Newsom. Maybe he is trying to avoid deaths, or is just not well read up. But regardless, it's his job to lead the state in a very safe but reasonable way. And I think him doing that shutdown thing, where it's already been proven to be safe, like at Disney World. I don't know if I've never heard anything about cases from Disney
Yeah,
World.
there has been no outbreak or spike because Disney World opened in Florida. If it was, trust me, CNN, CBS, everyone would be talking about it. So, I mean, just overall, guys, what I'm seeing here is that based on Biden's policies and some of these states, it just doesn't make sense that it would go blue. Because people are basically voting against their own interest. And we're already seeing that in California where obviously it's a liberal state, so I wouldn't be surprised if it went blue. But we also I know plenty of people personally, and I know just by looking at the numbers, because we've gone over taxes before, of how many people are leaving the state, how many businesses are leaving the state, and because of taxes, right? And so what we're seeing in California is that the state keeps trying to impose these taxes on rich people. But I mean, they have the money to leave. Like a famous billionaire just left California, I believe in 2020, might have been 2019, but I'll put it on screen. But these people who they're trying to tax, the 1%, they have the money to leave and go to a state like Nevada or Texas, where the income tax is nothing on the state level.
So for the Disneyland thing or Disney World thing, this is an article from the New York Times, and I'm just reading the first sort of headline thing. It says, at Disney World, worst fears about virus have not come true, and attendance has been low since the July reopening, but health officials and worker unions also say safety protocols have kept the coronavirus at bay. And that's from, I think, October 9th from the New York Times.
So, I mean, it's a proven thing. I just think that when Biden says that we need to shut down the country again, when Biden has all these policies that are kind of not for the majority of America, I just don't really see this election going to him. Like I said, it's not saying that I'm a Trump supporter. It's just more of like, if you look at this and like without emotion, because a lot of people love to look at the election and be like, oh, well, because this person said this, I'm going to vote this way. It's like, if you look at their policies.
Look at policies and behavior.
Yeah, policies and behavior. I mean, I see this going to Trump, like 100%. What do you guys think? What do you think, Justin?
So for me, honestly, I honestly don't know who will win. Many Democratic voters, they voted early, and I believe that is what is allowing Biden to win seemingly. But today is kind of like the last day, and Trump supporters are gonna come out like in huge numbers to vote in person or drop in mail, but also Biden supporters as well. The last minute drop-offs. So in terms of this whole election, I'm honestly not too sure, because the last day is kind of like a very skeptical thing for me. So I'm not saying I'm either for one or the other. I'm for whoever's gonna win. So at this point, for me, it's a 50-50, and I can't really tell. Even the policies that we've laid out and that we've discussed, honestly, people will push that aside and use their emotion to vote. That's the majority of voters, that, they use not their senses, but their heart and sometimes their mind to vote. And the few of us are going to be the ones that will look at the policies like, okay, I'm going to vote for this guy. So
It's really a toss up, but I mean, my whole bias on this of like where I think this is going to go is based on policy. So I think based on policy, Georgia, Texas, Arizona, Georgia. I just said Georgia twice. PA, maybe North Carolina. I see them going red because policy.
But looking at like so many people and how they decide to vote, it's always been the same. It's always been based on emotion. I haven't heard of anyone or anyone like, especially on social media, where they vote based on these certain policies. Maybe some people, but the majority are looking at like videos or like celebrities telling them what to do.
Like, how many
and-
people know about Trump's like the peace
Yeah,
deals
no
that
one knows. They
about?
just say
Yeah.
that he's a shitty person. Okay, he can be. He's genuinely. He might be a shitty person, but he's a businessman. That's just how he acts, and he's 77 or 74 years old. So he's been living like that for his whole life. But I'm just saying, it's just tough to see that, or not tough to see, but it's expected to see that these voters are gonna use their emotion and not their senses to basically vote, especially for today. And especially it's last minute. So they're not going to have time to read their policies. They could have done that maybe like months away or months before, but there's so many people that are going to come out and they're going to put away or push aside policy and use their so-called heart to vote for who they think will lead this country.
I think that's just young voters though, because I mean you can see all across the country. There's plenty of people that like say like especially in
But
PA.
so many young teenage voters are coming out.
I mean, but
lot.
if you look at like older voters, like or people that genuinely have jobs, I mean, like millennials, it's known they're not a lot of them, especially in California, living with their parents. Like in PA, it's more of like I said, the fracking. Like people can vote with emotion all they want, but someone who's like, I could lose my job, is gonna vote a way that is in their self-interest. So I think that it's because of how we see social media and how it's portraying everything that maybe we think that everyone's voting with their emotion. But I think that in states like Texas and Florida and PA where they have things to lose, like in Texas, we know it's a huge gun state. They don't want to see their guns taken away from them. So you're going to be
Yeah, I
like,
mean, we saw people chasing down the Biden-Harris campaign bus.
yeah, like I just don't see people voting against their own interests. Like, oh, well, I'm pro Second Amendment. Let me vote for someone who wants to get rid of like guns, ARs and all these things. Same with Florida. Same with PA. Like, I just don't see someone voting against their own interests. So, I mean, I think that because of Twitter and how Twitter and Instagram and Facebook are portraying things, we may think that everyone's voting with emotion. But, I mean, there's plenty of shy Trump supporters. And, what is it called? The mass of people. It's like
Silent
quiet.
majority.
Yeah, the silent majority. I think that they are smart enough to know I'm not going to vote against my own interests. Same thing in California. I know that a businessman or a businesswoman is not going to vote against their own interests. Like, oh, let me just raise my taxes at the corporate level and my income tax level.
I wouldn't be surprised if they vote for Trump because, in terms of a businessman, they're always gonna have to lean towards, a lower corporate tax rate. So for that, yeah. But there are other people that I believe that some people might even give up their interest for the majority. So I don't know. I mean, it might be true. Some people kind of give it up for the majority. So at this point, people have to think about their own interest, as you've said. Like, how is this gonna personally affect you? But honestly, people don't really think that way, and they think that these certain issues are gonna affect them the most. But whoever wins, like at the end of the day, how is your life gonna be after?
Yeah, like
is it
how
gonna
will
be
you be
regular?
affected?
Are you really gonna be affected? With this whole Biden thing, the whole tax plan, the top 1% is of course gonna be affected, and they're gonna look for ways to kind of
Yeah, but they probably
find a
still are
loophole.
gonna have. Yeah.
Yeah, but then there's like certain things that say, oh, it's gonna trickle down, but then there are other articles that are saying that it might not be that way. I even came across an article saying that there might be a middle class tax cut under Biden's plan. I'm not too sure if that's true. Correct me if I'm wrong. But But at the end of the day, some people can kind of give up their interest for the majority, and that's fine.
Yeah. Personally, I don't know. My gut, based off of what I mean by my gut, is people that I know, people from all over the country, my own personal friends, family that I know who just dislike Biden and Kamala a lot because of their own policies and past behaviors. With Kamala being the state attorney general and her record. Wait, was she state attorney general?
She was something.
Yeah, she was the Kamala Harris as state attorney general, her as senator, Joe Biden's whole thing with like the speaking at a member of the KKK's funeral, the 88 crack cocaine laws, bust down 94 crime bill, him saying if you ain't black if you vote for me, to a black dude on his own on the black dude's platform. Like, people really despise him and his tax plans. So that's what I mean by gut. But my head says Biden might win because there's so much room for error with these mail-in ballots. Because
But everyone knows that the majority of people that are voting early are Biden supporters.
right, and true. And once you send in your mail-in ballot, you might have sent it in months before or weeks before before you've even seen like the second debate or any other stuff that Biden has messed up on in the past 10 to 14 days. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and in regards to Trump, didn't he say that he's gonna try or not try or yeah, like once the election has ended, that's the result. So his majority of voters are just gonna vote for today, and probably the next few days, majority might be Democratic mail-ins. Because that's what Trump said, his supporters are gonna be like, oh, I don't. This has to be the only day. I don't think my vote will count the next few days. So
Know like how they're counting.
At the end of the day, we
I
don't
don't know how they're counting the ballots. Like maybe they just might
Start until election day, so they
Right.
couldn't start until today.
maybe they accidentally. What if some evil person has like a bias against Trump and they see a ballot that says Trump and they just throw it away?
I mean, honestly, we'll see. But I mean, like I said, I see it going to Trump based on policy. You guys say that you think based on emotion it's going to go to Biden, or
Based on how people
either
act.
way. Either way, that's why I said 50-50 at this point.
and you say
My gut says Trump based on people that I know from all around the country, but my head says Biden because there's so much room for error and there's so much hate for Trump in general in this country. And also, like, there's still going to be, and then also the mail-in ballots have to be a factor in how late they're going to be counting them. And if it's as close as it was in 2016, people are going to call for a recount, and it probably is going to. My prediction, I think the most likely thing to happen was what you had said was it's going to go to the Supreme Court.
But we'll just go ahead and end it right there, guys. I mean, comment down in the comment down below what you guys think, where you think this election is going to go. You know, like for Trump or Biden.
Like for Trump or Biden, and start a civil war in the comments.